The final thoughts in Me Addiction are found in the Afterword, where we coin a new phrase. Copernicus came in and he challenged the mindset of the day that said, according to Ptolemy, everything revolved around the earth. And Copernicus came in and he said, no, it doesn't. Everything revolves around the sun. And that turned the world upside down, literally, because people didn't agree with him at first. They pushed back on it. And that's the same thing that happens to you and me when we start getting this idea of the me addiction. And we try to change things in our lives. Things will push back on us and won't want us to change. Our friends won't want us to change or challenge them to change. But we're going to encourage you to be someone who Copernicanizes their world. And when you do that, some things happen locally. For one, you go into relationships, not to see what you can get out of those relationships, but to see what you can give to those relationships. In your community, you look for ways to serve. There's many things you can do locally. But then we ask you to think globally. In 1987, I went to Haiti for the first time. And I remember as we were outside in the jungle areas away from the cities, we were driving through a bunch of Anglo-Americans in the back of a truck, and so the Haitian kids would come out from nowhere and be out in the tall grass. And I remember seeing this one little boy just looking at us, and he had orange tinted hair and his stomach was starting to look kind of bloated, and we learned later that what that meant was he was malnourished and might not even live past the age of 5. In fact, the Haitians have a word for that. It's tichape. We asked them, what does that mean? They said, well, it means little lucky one. That if he lives past the age of 5, he's very fortunate. He's unusual in their culture. And so sometimes mothers wouldn't even give them a name or call them by their name until after age 5, tichape. And I remember how that changed my world from being me-centered and wondering what I was going to eat at the next meal, what clothes I was going to wear, what car I was going to buy. That now I could see, getting rid of the me addiction, that there's a whole world out there that needs people to help them, whether it's clothing or food or water or all those needs that you see bombarding us every day from around the world. We want to challenge you to leave me addiction behind and see how your job and your money and your resources are not just for you. They're really to help change the world and make it a better place. A place that, well, is very much like the Garden of Eden was before the me addiction hit. We hope you read this book. We hope it changes your life. And we hope you share it with a few other people along the way.
In our lives, we've asked the question of what's in it for me? And in this book, we explore the idea of changing that question to what's in it for him? What's in it for God? And as we begin to search out what that means, we realize that we can take part in a me-free revolution, that we can begin not to look to ourselves, but to look to God and what would God have us do with our lives. So what I want you to do as you think about your life and as you evaluate the concepts in this book and apply them to your life, that you can begin to serve and look for ways and opportunities to serve in your local congregation, to volunteer for a charity, to see how you can help other people and assist them. And as you begin to do that, I feel that you'll begin to find out what it means to live for God rather than live for ourselves. And to help you towards that, I want to encourage you to look at the study guide at the end of the book. It's got a lot of helpful suggestions, a lot of questions to provoke your thought and to reflect on. And so you might want to just do that in a self-study or do that with a group of your friends or a Bible study at church. I just want to really encourage you to take advantage of that resource and tool. And I hope that as we begin to look for ways to serve other people and ask that question, what's in it for him, that we together can take part in a new, me-free revolution.
We didn't know if the book said everything it needed to say, so if you've got a foreword, you have to have a afterward. So
makes sense.
In that, it was really interesting. One of the books I've read over the last few years that really impacted me was a little book called Jim and Casper Go to Church. And
Right.
Jim is the Christian guy, and Matt Casper is an atheist that actually the author hired to go with him to a lot of the churches in America, a good number of mega churches, some of which, if we named them, we would be familiar with them.
Yes.
And in an interview that I ran across with Matt, the atheist, afterwards, they asked him, what was one of the most profound things you noticed when you went to these churches? And he said, there's too much focus on themselves.
Ooh.
Too little on the primary commands of Jesus.
Right.
Wow.
I mean, leave it to God to let an atheist
Speak the truth.
speak the truth. What do y'all think about that?
Well, yeah, that may be, again, one of the telltale signs of a me-addicted faith generation. To really not look at the call of Christ, to not answer the call to be his disciple, to follow him, deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow Jesus. Jesus repeats that over and over again in the Gospels, and it is the call, the crux issue for our world today as we enter it as people of faith, to set aside a focus on ourselves and say, you know what, we want to be about Jesus. We want to bring him glory, and we want to advance the only thing that offers hope to mankind today.
I think we coined a word there that I don't know if it's ever been used before, Copernicanize. It's hard to say. Reggie's going to have to work on this for a while, but Copernicanize your world.
Yes.
You know, how do you turn it upside down like Copernicus did? Locally, you know, in the relationships that you have, Glenn, how would being free of the me addiction change things like your workplace, your home, your community?
What it's going to do is it's going to free you from worrying about what other people think. We spend a lot of time worrying about, I wonder what someone else thinks about what I'm doing here. You know, and as we've looked at this book and even the title, and as we've looked at some of the things we've done with Shoestring Ministries, recognize that on some level, I have to confess, man, the message is a little offensive to some people because it challenges comfort, it challenges status quo, and it says, hey, listen, we need to not be about what we're currently doing, focusing on ourselves. We need to be about kingdom work. And I was at a conference, and I had a booth up with some of our information, and this older gentleman who'd been in Christian radio for, he said something like, what he said was, son, I've been in Christian radio longer than you've been alive. And he was just talking about his ministry, and he said, you know what, in all of my years in ministry, I know that this is the problem. This me addiction is the problem.
That's good.
But for you to actually have a ministry and a message that calls that out, he said, that just blows my mind. And he said, you're going to get pushback, and you need to be aware. You're going to get pushback. So anytime you try and do something that is different than the status quo, but for God, with a pure heart, free of yourself, you're going to get pushback.
Yeah.
Right.
So you foresee a book burning?
You know, that's
Or
funny you should
something
say
like
that. The next 2-year project.
Well, I think that crux the question, what's in it for him, really turns the Christian world upside down. And it's admitting we're called to be disciples, not just believers.
Yes.
And God's will for you, God's purpose for you is not for you.
Yes.
God's will and God's purpose for your life is for others. And to dedicate yourself for living for Jesus and living for others. And that's really our hope and our desire for those that engage in this process and receive this call and this revolution to live our lives and to live our faith for Jesus Christ by living for others and not for ourselves.